delivering nightmares to children.
Rhino walked in at the perfect time because I know he loves this series as well. Next up is a segment that I'm going to call What If? So I'm going to ask you guys a question, and you guys can tell me what you think would have happened if something had changed in a pivotal moment of the Wandering Isles.
Totally is the answer to every question TPK?
Yeah, it could be. It's totally not taken from any specific group whatsoever. Could be Marvel, but you know. So I sat down and I was like, okay, I want to do a what if segment. So like, what do you guys think would happen, you know? And I was like, what questions do I want to ask? Or like, what do I think would be something that would be poignant enough to be important enough to tweak the entire realm? So I have a few moments. I found 4 specifically. So first question, what if Boreal's fireball had actually killed a party member? How would that have changed for you guys?
I can answer that from Eos's perspective.
Go ahead. Yeah, whoever wants to take it first, you're up.
It wouldn't change her opinion. Full stop.
Of Boreal, the situation, or
yeah,
of Boreal?
Yeah.
That's a good answer. Yeah.
Coincidentally, my answer is the same.
Yeah, wouldn't have changed your opinion of Boreal at all?
Because in the moment and thereafter, the whole conversation was around, it was something out of character that wasn't something he would normally do. Then it was, you know, looked at deeper, and then it was found to be something that he wasn't in control of. And once you take the choice out of his hands, well then, you know, it's hard to change how I feel about it. It wasn't his choice to take his action. So, you know, that was the way Slate looked at it.
Yeah, you become the hammer in the hand of the woodmaker.
Right, like you're just a tool being used in that moment. Yeah. I'm curious about Busy's answer. You're so closely tied to that.
Yeah, I think as a result, Hatsu would have brought him home.
Back to Sagnatoshi?
Sure. Yeah.
Or just like, is that a really nice way of saying he would have like killed him?
No, he wouldn't have killed him, but he would have
removed him.
He would have took the responsibility, and he would moved him for sure. Because he knows that the consequences for Boreal for doing that would be tremendous, and he would also know that if they would stay, there would be a lot of problems for Remington. So I think he would have left and maybe rejoined later.
Right. So you think Hatsu would have stepped back, brought him back to Sagnatoshi, and then seen that he was okay, obviously, and then come back to...
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Because this was not the first time, so he kind of knew. But he would also think that he would be too much of a threat.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good answer. It's pretty straightforward. It makes sense. Like, in terms of what would have happened, I think, for the group, for myself at least, I think that the way it all went with like Westland, I think would have been dramatically different, because Westland was being a hero in that moment. As far as I'm concerned, I look at it, Westland was just trying to stop what was happening, and I get his actions. He was trying to keep Boreal from doing anything bad or hurting anyone else or coming to that conclusion where he does kill a party member or student or whatever. But I think that if you're taking that one step further, like Westland would have been like saving lives and stuff, but I wonder if there would have been an aggression from anyone else or something. Like Westland's holding Boreal down, but does it change the view? Like Dash, we watched kill an old man 2 weeks ago for like just to put him out of his misery. Like, would Dash have responded, for example? I'd be curious like how that would have changed the dynamic. Like, would teachers have responded, or students, or anything else? We nearly lost like Eos. You were on death saves, right? I think.
Yeah.
Madriana too, maybe. So and Slate. So like we were close. So like it became like quite a big thing very quickly. And I'm curious how the party would have taken it, especially in the early stages where you didn't know each other so well. Now today, I think very differently. I think you guys would go all out knowing what Boreal went through. If he goes through it again, I think you guys are all there. You're just trying to diffuse the situation. You know what's happening. You have more awareness. But when you don't know, I'm so curious. Yeah. Like that stuff sits in my mind like all the time. I'm just like, oh, what would they have done if this happened?
And the group was also looser at that time too. We were still in the handshaking stage.
I think the what if question that would have been more different, I think, would have been what would the external view be, and how would the court case and or sanctions have gone
Oh shit!
had somebody have died. I think the stakes were up, not that they weren't up already, because there was a lot of devastation and damage and so on, but I think the aftermath would have been different, not just how would we have reacted in the moment and what did we feel about it. I think the effect on the school, for example, there was the threat of the school closing, so if that had happened, that would have changed absolutely everything. Yeah, I mean, I think that would have been the bigger what if in terms of.
That is actually my next
different.
what if. What if the academy had shut down after the trial? So there you go. That was my next one. Like I was curious, like, because that was a big moment as well. That could have gone either way. The swing would have been, like you continue like you did, or you don't. Do you go back home? Do you stay as a group? Like, what do you think would have happened had the academy shut down?
War of the Buttons, we attacked the nearest school.
Great movie.
Just steal their pig.
Yeah,
what do you guys think? So like what do you actively think if the school shut down, if you guys had lost the trial, and there was some of you who were rooting for that at the beginning of the trial, like, so where do you think it would have been for you had the school shut down? Where are your characters now?
Oh man, like Eos at that time, I think specifically at that time, she wasn't too close with anyone. She probably would have gone to the library, see what was there, and then she would eventually just go back home because she's not really belonging anywhere else. Realistically, like if the CRU are there doing their freaking witch hunt, yeah, she's heading home. Hop on the horse, grab a bag of books, go.
I think.
Hatsu would be home as well, for sure.
I would have.
But he would also know. Yeah.
So it's really interesting because any moment that follows up with you guys being a group was all riding on that. Like if you guys weren't still, like if the academy had closed or the Arcanum had closed, that would be it. Like there would be no more groups. So anything that you progressively do as a group, like save lives or do anything, any of those things, those key moments wouldn't happen had this not gone the way it did. And it nearly didn't. Like that was really down to like the end, and like a lot to do with things like Slate's fuckery with the soup and like those things, like really flustering him at the end. Like there was a compelling argument to shut down the academy or the Arcanum, and not a very compelling argument to keep the Arcanum open, especially because it was the people attacking that were people who hate the Arcanum anyway and its purpose. Like they knew what they were attacking. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's weird. Yeah, I wonder what would have happened. I mean, it's D&D, so the fates eventually probably would have brought the party again together somehow, in some way. But or just
because
characters.
I think Remington wouldn't have had I think he would have closed the school publicly for political reasons, but he would find ways to activate his networks to kind of, just pop up at another, like, pop-up store somewhere.
Underground.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Magic has its ways.
Yeah, that's fair. What do you think, Rory, for EOS? Like, just go home, that's it? Or you think...
I put it in perspective of the time, where, like, she didn't have many ties to the group in general at that point whatsoever. This is before really said much to anyone, and she's still quite shy, so yeah, she would have hopped on the horse and found her way back home, maybe had some little micro adventures along the way, and chasing away from death the entire time.
yeah, that's fair.
It was so early stages for her, that would have been the clean answer.
My next one was, this one comes from not necessarily just the status of like, okay, TPK could have happened or whatever. That's not what I'm approaching here with this. I'm curious more of the long-term ramifications of what you guys have done in this situation. what if Gorband had attacked the group instead of cooperating? Like long term, not the idea of you guys just get killed or it gets killed or whatever. I mean long term, like how do you think it's benefited you that you helped Gorband, or what do you lose by not helping Gorband? Is there something there?
Eos wanted to kill him.
I actually remember that. Yeah, you really wanted to kill him. I remember that.
She's like, no, end of suffering.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of discussion about using different guises, but I suppose it's kind of like about a humanity of sorts, because we were talking about with Weslin, for example, a witch versus a monster, and what the difference is and which one is worse. There was lots of those conversations, and there was lots of moments about the equivalent of what makes you bad or what makes you really bad, and what level of bad is acceptable, because we all felt to some degree that it's come out that we all felt in different ways that we were bad, different, monster, wrong, whatever you want to call it. Bunch of misfits.
Kind of what Rhino said in chat there. He actually said we would lose our humanity. Like that's kind of leaning into what you're saying there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that's part of the journey that we're all on, is to find our place in the world, which is part of what the school was for, to have people and creatures like us that have talents like us to have a place in a world that doesn't necessarily want them, or at least not all corners of it does, or at least that's how it's perceived currently. So I think, like with Orla, etc., we as a group are finding that we individually and collectively are on a mission to prove ourselves and prove our worth to others. And I think there was a bit of a mirror moment where we were looking at a creature and going, well, is this an actual monster, or is someone just say it's a monster? And I think we were all thinking that internally as part of it. Although I would say immediately, if it attacked first, then I wouldn't have personally felt like talking. It would have been, you've made your bed and you're taking a dirt nap. I mean, that wouldn't be what I wanted, but that would be how it goes. Don't start it but finish it kind of scenario for me anyway. But I think it was a great opportunity that we were able to carve out in that moment, and we all felt that common ground, that pull of humanity, and we said, okay, let's give Gorband a chance. And every inch we gave, it took it and didn't push the boundaries. So then we said, okay, let's see where this goes. And it all went really well. And I think we were all grateful for the opportunity to have taken it,
I think Hatsu was taking a slow approach, because he first didn't know what kind of creature it was, but he knew it was somehow related to Dr. Harrow, and he knew what Slate went through and what kind of fuckery she does with altering things and everything. Also these tree constructs that she made and stuff like that. So ultimately in his mind was whatever that comes against them might not do it on their own will, their own behalf. They're kind of forced to. So he was a little hesitant. He was ready, but he was hesitant because in his mind it was not Gorband's fault. So he was actively looking for something to work with, if that makes sense.
It leans back to what we were saying earlier about you guys being kind of forgiving to Boreal in that way because he wasn't in his right mind, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. What about you, Roy?
So this is the thing I was thinking about it there. Like at that time, Eos didn't want to go into the cave because she was dealing with the fact that she knew Wes was going to pass. So her state of mind was different. When it came to be that Gorband came out, the group was doing their thing. She was slow to react. She was, of course, angry at the overall universe right there and then. So she did want to kill it. But when it came to seeing the response to the bell, and I think Hatsu did something too.
Yeah, Dash definitely did something with that little bell. Like that really, that was such a cute thing. Like I think that comes from the point of being a father, maybe. finding a way to
Possibly.
distract it. Like, I think that was the key in Dash coming out, because that was like a really interesting. I wasn't dropping hints there. I don't think Dash has a kid. No, but
He
Kian
might.
being
He's very NSA. Like, you never know.
No, but like I think the father in Kian came out there and like trying to find a way to connect with it in a different way, where it's an entity that maybe doesn't speak so well or do things so well, but you know, there is a way to connect with it. And I thought that was a really kind of cute, sweet thing, like a very sweet little moment. Sorry, Rory, I cut you off there.
You're good. When Eos learned his name was Adrian, she went up, grabbed his forearm, and asked Adrian, "What do you want to do?" And Gorban responded, and therefore her opinion changed. She didn't want to kill him anymore.
Again, trying to uncover the humanity in it. Yeah, you guys sort of all have a very common thread there. Yeah.
That was a good situation for us in terms of growth.
I think
Yeah,
I
a lot of
regret
what I'm
doing
trying to
this
throw at you
session
is through
already.
What?
I feel like, because I feel like we've just set our hearts on our sleeves for DM fuckery and our tears later. I feel like we've just unveiled
Hey,
too
tell
much.
me everything that you guys really appreciate about the campaign.
Yeah.
My next question, this one, I don't think there's going to be any hearts on sleeves because I think it would have just ended in bloodshed, but we'll see. This is my my fourth one, the last one for the what ifs. What if Orla had contacted crew, the crisis response unit? Thus actually bringing in your first introduction to the crisis response unit. I was pretty sure that was going to happen because she was very, very against Eos. You guys really clawed her back on that, and in the end, Rory, you mostly did a lot of heavy lifting because you just kept protecting her during that fight, and you were like not necessarily jumping in the way of anything, but like you had her back. I kept offering her tea and shit.
Yeah, I was conflicted player in that one, as you know from the DMs. I was very conflicted myself. Eos wanted to do this, and I was like, no.
Yeah, you went totally down the route of kill my kindness. I thought that was really interesting.
If it was me, it would have been different.
Maybe. I don't know. You're a nice dude. I don't know if it would have been that different. I think you would have tried to see the best in people. You always do. But with
That was
like,
tough.
say Orla, if she contacts the crisis response unit, what's like besides, you know, GTFO? Like, what's your actual response?
Disguise self.
I mean, Hatsu wouldn't blame her because that's kind of her
You get
role.
it.
She is the top tier hunter in that area, and she also dealt with a lot of threats. And since she told us, we, at least Hatsu, knew that there must be a small unit of the crisis response unit in the area anyway, because there's where she delivered the beast and got the money for.
Yeah.
So he knew that they would be kind of quick. So in his mind, the plan B was, plan A was like move forward with her and contact Remington and tell him everything that happened, blah, blah, blah. But if that wouldn't have worked the way it did, he would have beelined around the cities and stuff to the targeted area, because he knew they have the stone to teleport out at any time. So it was just a matter of who's faster. And since the crisis response unit doesn't know where they're going to, they would have the advantage to basically get it done without getting caught, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
My thoughts on that is a bit like Batman up on the building. I think I would just watch and see, because it depends on what the crisis response unit did. I mean, if they arrived and decided to go on a cleanse, well, then they would become the target. If they arrived and were like, okay, let's find this one particular creature that's doing all this havoc, started fighting it, and then let's say we're doing well but then started to lose, I might be inclined to help them with a view to dealing with the issue to save the village. You know, it just depends. So I think more information required from a Slate perspective. It would be the Magic 8 Ball says ask again later, for sure.
It's interesting because if you take it in, you're like, okay, this is how the crisis response unit responds to things. We don't get much of an opportunity to see this. If we just watch, what advantage does that give us the next time it's called, kind of thing as well. That's a cool perspective.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I definitely have some, like, I want to come back to some what ifs down the line, because there's a few moments that I feel are going to be like the more you interact with things, like I'm really curious how you guys are going to interact with like Wolver, for example. Eventually you're going to cross paths. You have to reach that point. But like, that's also like an entity of just like, it's not the first one you've seen, which will bring us into actually our lore deep dive segment shortly. But it's not the first one you've seen, but it is one of the oldest entities here. And since approaching the Arcanum, you have met several entities of substantial and significant age who have a ton of experience in this world. Westland in particular has spoken to one. Westland and Slate spoke to another one. Slate has another one in his backpack, and now Wolver as well. It is very quickly that like these entities that may have more information, more puzzle pieces, more whatever, are just being put on the board and put on the table in front of you guys. And it's like it's definitely something interesting where like you're gonna see, I think, what it means to sort of not just be a powerful force, but to be what's called a legend. And that's what's going to bring us into our lore deep dive here.